Hi, this is Josh from MYOB. Welcome to the course Introduction to MYOB Advanced. In this video you'll get an overview of the MYOB Advanced user interface and get acquainted with the menu structure, the screens and their elements. We'll be reviewing multiple topics in this video. They are how to log into MYOB Advanced, the application module, using the menu and navigation pane, entering data by using a data entry screen, searching for a document, sorting and filtering records in a table, viewing hidden tabs, copying a record, selecting data by using an inquiry screen, processing data using a processing screen, running a report, using configuration screens, adding a screen to my favorites, searching for a screen, and searching for help articles. Before we begin, note that we'll be logging in using the admin username, which gives us full access rights to all screens. Depending on the user role and the MYOB Advanced configuration, the number of available modules and menu items may differ. Let's now go to a demo system so we can have a look at these topics. MYOB Advanced will run in most browsers. Google Chrome is the recommended browser, but you can also run the program in Firefox, Safari, and Internet Explorer 10 or later. The login screen lets you enter your username and password, and if there's more than one company configured for the site, these are presented in a drop-down list. If the user forgets their username or password, MYOB Advanced has the ability to provide these details by clicking the Forgot Your Credentials link. Let's log in now. Once you've logged in, you'll be presented with the MYOB Advanced screen. You'll see the main working area, the main menu, the navigation pane, and the info area at the top right-hand side of the screen. After logging in, my main working area contains the user's individual dashboards that display the information the user wants to have at their fingertips. Each piece of information, a chart or a table, is a widget. You can add widgets to your own dashboard and organize the dashboards as desired. If a user has not configured any personal dashboards, the default documentation page will appear in the main working area. The main menu consists of two levels. The top level represents groups of application modules. Each group consists of modules that provide the application functionality. In Organization, there are modules for organizations and customer relationship management. The dashboard templates and company dashboard sections have been added to the demo database to give partners dashboard examples, but they're not part of the application when a site is commissioned. Under Finance, the modules are the financial accounting modules such as General Ledger, Cash Management, Accounts Payable, Accounts Receivable, as well as other core modules of the application. The Distribution section provides inventory management and sales-related activities. The distribution modules are tightly integrated with one another and with the financial modules. Under the Configuration group, the administrator can set up the system configuration and manage user access. Under System, the administrator can manage the company tenants, configure the menu structure of the application, and apply customization projects which adjust the program to the client's needs or extend the functionality of the system. The last group, Help, provides the documentation on the system. The screens of each module are listed on the navigation pane. Typically, you'll see 4 tabs on the navigation pane: the Work area, also called Data Entry, Processes, Reports, and Configuration. The screens are divided into tabs depending on each screen's purpose and frequency of use. On the Work tab, the most frequently used sections are the Enter section, where all the data entry is executed, and the Explore section, which is where all the inquiry screens are located. We'll now look at how to work in an MYOB Advanced screen using the General Ledger module as an example. Click on Finance, General Ledger, and go to the Journal Transactions screen. This is a typical data entry screen in MYOB Advanced. Data entry screens are used for input of documents such as journal entries, sales orders, bills, and checks. On every screen, the screen ID is displayed in the address bar. The journal ID screen is GL301000. You can also see this in the Help drop-down. The Form title bar has additional functions related to the form like notes, activities, files, customization, and help. The Form toolbar allows working with objects through the screen. Typically, there are buttons for additional actions that can be performed over the object. For example, on this screen, we can release a batch or generate a detailed report for the batch. The main area typically consists of the summary and the detail area on the data entry screen. For each screen, you can view documentation from the Help drop-down menu. Selecting this option opens the Help documentation in a new browser tab. Now let's create a new journal batch through this screen. To insert a new record, click the Add New Record button on the toolbar. Any parameters that are required for input are marked with an asterisk. A grey asterisk means the system has inserted a default value into a required parameter. You can change this later if you need to. Red asterisks mean you have to specify the value and there's no default value set for the field. This new placeholder means the system will generate the value automatically as soon as you click Save. This is usually a document number. In the case of a batch, we have to add transactions to it. To populate the grid, click the Add Row button on the grid toolbar. Specify all of the fields marked with red asterisks. You can click on each field, or you can move between them using the Tab or Enter keys. You can also click on the grid to enter the first row, and double-click to add a new row. If a grid has multiple columns to be updated, you can switch between grid and form to edit the screen in form mode using this button. Click the button again to go back to the table representation of the grid. You can rearrange the columns in a grid and hide unnecessary columns. The columns and their position will be saved as your individual configuration of the screen. To hide a column, click this configuration button at the top left of the grid. Select any unwanted columns and move them from the Selected into the Available Columns section and click Save. To rearrange columns, simply drag and drop. Depending on the document you're working with, there may be additional buttons on the grid toolbar, such as Load Record from File or Export to Excel. Now we can click to save the document to the database. Once you click Save, the data from the Summary and Detail area is saved into the database. If you've entered an incorrect value, you'll see a red cross by that value. If you roll your mouse over the red cross, you'll be able to see the error message. The data will not be saved until you correct the value. To delete a record from the grid, click the Delete button on the toolbar, or you can use the Delete button on your keyboard. You can attach any file to a record using this Files menu. You can either click on the menu and add a file from this window, or you can drag the file directly onto the main area of the form. Once added, the number next to the Files menu increases to show you how many attachments there are. You can open this window and click on the attachment to download it to your computer or to a mobile device. The Information area displays the business date, which is the date that will be inserted into the transaction date of each new document. This defaults to today's date, but you can change it to enter transactions for different dates. So if I change the business date here, and then create a new record, you'll see that the transaction date is the new business date. You can search for records from a data entry screen. Let's say I want to open batch 748 posted from the Accounts Payable module. First, select Accounts Payable from the module drop-down, and then you can click the magnifying glass next to the batch number field to open a selector window. You can also open this by clicking on the field and pressing F3. You can also find a batch by entering text into the batch number select field. Say if I just enter 74, the selector displays the results that match those keywords. You can see the record we want at the end of the list. When entering data, you might want to give more space to the detail area, especially if the summary or selection area contains a lot of lines. In this case, you can collapse the form by clicking the double arrow button on the top right corner of the form. To expand the main form, click the icon again. You can sort the records on the grid by one column, or insert filters on one or multiple columns. For example, to sort the transactions by reference number, click on the reference number header and select Sort Ascending. If you want to see, for example, all transactions where the debit amount is greater than $200 for account 710000, you can do this by inserting a filter on the Account column for 710000, and then inserting a second filter on the Debit Amount column for is greater than $200. To go back to the original information, clear the filters on both columns. You can also refresh the list of records in the grid by clicking the Refresh button on the grid toolbar, and finally you can adjust the width of the columns by clicking the Fit to Screen button. On some data entry screens, such as customers or suppliers, the detail area of the screen consists of multiple tabs. If your browser window becomes too small, some tabs may not fit within the display area and will collapse. To view the collapsed tabs, click the arrow button at the top right corner of the tab. Now let's look at copying records. We'll use the Invoices and Memos screen in Accounts Receivable as an example. On the Form toolbar, there are buttons for navigation and data manipulation. For instance, you can select the clipboard drop-down menu to copy and paste a record as a new one. To copy this invoice, click Copy, then Create a new record, and click Paste. The record is copied along with all of its details, and a new reference number is assigned when I click Save. For records like customers, where there is no primary key such as the reference number, you need to enter an ID number yourself before pasting in the new record. You'll see that if I open a customer and copy it, then create a new record, I can't select the paste option yet, but if I enter a customer ID and then tab off the field, I can now paste in the details of the copied record. The Explore group of the Work Area tab usually contains several inquiry screens. An inquiry screen allows you to select data by specified criteria. For example, on the Account Summary screen here, if I select Cash Asset in the Account Class field, you can see the data is filtered by account class. You can export the data from an inquiry grid to an Excel file, or view the details of an account by clicking the Account Details button. You can also create and save selection criteria as a reusable filter by clicking the filter button at the right of the screen. From this window, you can set up filtering details and save them, and the filter will be available from this drop-down from then on. So again, if I select an account class of Cash Asset, and then save, you'll see that this new filter is now available from the drop-down. You can clear the filter by clicking this button. The Processes tab contains screens that allow you to perform bulk processing operations over a set of selected objects. For example, the Post-Transaction screen here displays batches of transactions that can be posted in bulk. You can select one or more transactions and click Post to process them, or click Post All to process all the listed records. You can jump to the appropriate detail screen by clicking on the link for a transaction. On any processing screen, you can set up a schedule that will automatically process all records that match the query on the processing screen at a specified time. On the Report tab, you can generate reports based on specified parameters. For example, here's the Trial Balance Summary Report screen, where you can specify these parameters on the Report Parameter tab. Required parameters are marked with an asterisk. Select a ledger in a financial period, and click Run Report. The system outputs the report, which you can print, export as a PDF or an Excel file, or send via email. To go back to the report, click this Parameters button. You can save the set of report parameters that you've chosen as a template for future use. The final tab on the navigation pane is the Configuration tab. Configuration screens are primarily used during the configuration and setup stages of a site's implementation. They're used less once the site is up and running. For example, the Configuration tab in the General Ledger module contains the General Ledger preferences, the financial year definition, ledger configuration, account class definition, and so on. You can add a screen as a favourite by clicking on this star icon. The star turns yellow to indicate that the screen is one of your favourites. When one or more favourites are defined, this star button appears at the left of the menu. Click this button to access all of your favourites. Having selected a favourite, or any time when you've navigated to a new screen, you can synchronise a navigation pane with the current screen by clicking the Sync Navigation Pane button. You can search for specific screens and for help articles in the system. To search for a screen, type part of the screen's name into the search box and then click Search. For instance, we can search for Preferences. Initially this brings up no results, but if we select Form Titles from this drop-down, it returns a list of screens that let you configure the preferences of various modules. You can also search for help articles containing these keywords by selecting Help from the drop-down. The system executes a full text search of the keyword in the help articles. You can narrow the results by selecting a documentation section in the Filter drop-down list. And that concludes our introduction to MYOB Advanced. Thanks for watching.